Hi everyone, thank you again for joining me. It's Gary Cassidy here, and today I've got a very special guest. His name is Jay Reso, but you might also know him as Christian from WWE. How's it going today, Christian? Or Jay, whatever one you'd prefer.
Gary, what's going on? How are you?
I'm not too bad.
Need more names.
Yeah, I can definitely add a few more in there. I'm going to apologise because I've already done it, and it's going to happen throughout the interview where, of course, you know, I've been a fan of yours for many years. It's going to be tricky for me to call you Jay, so if I call you Christian, I do apologise. But there's only one place that we need to start off, and there you actually are called Jay. And as your upcoming movie, Cagefighter, you're both in front of the camera and behind it. I need to ask a very general question. How did it all come about?
Yeah, so what happened is I had done an independent movie a couple of years ago in Regina, Saskatchewan, in Canada, where we shot this movie as well, called Super Grid. And one of the producers on that movie knew Shane Putzlacher, who is a producer on the Cagefighter movie, and knew that. And you know, they talked about the wrestling aspects of what was going on, and he said, "Hey, you should send this script to Jay and have him take a look at it." So they sent it to me, and I made a couple of suggestions, and then they kind of asked me to come on as kind of as an executive producer from there. And from that, asked if I wanted to do a small but pivotal role in the movie, and of course jumped at that chance as well. So that's kind of how it all came to be.
Yeah, and of course there's a few big names in it. I would say yourself, you're obviously a big name, but there's the likes of Chuck Liddell as well, and another man from the wrestling industry, Jon Moxley. And my favourite little thing that I heard is that you're the person that recommended Jon Moxley be in that role. Is that correct? And if so, why did you recommend him?
Yeah, well, you know, it's one of those things where when I read it, it seemed like to me, kind of written for him. Just when you see it, you'll know that I mean, now that it's done, I don't think that I could see anybody else, you know, in that role the way that he did it. And just knew at the time that he was that it was being cast, that he was going to be a free agent at that time. So yeah, basically that's just the timing worked out for that.
And it seems like you've already answered my next question, which was going to be, I guess, was there anyone else shortlisted for it, or was it just Jon Moxley?
I think there was never really anybody like, hey, this is who we like. When there was a couple names kind of thrown around, but when his name was brought up, everyone was kind of like, yeah, that's who should play this.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, a lot of people from the wrestling industry have transitioned into the role of acting. I've spoken to a few about it, you know, the likes of Dustin Rhodes and stuff, who have said that it's a lot easier to do because you've got that background in wrestling. Did you find that as well?
Yeah, well, I think it's just you know, I've always said that wrestling, you know, WWE in particular, was kind of entertainment boot camp. You know, You're out there, you know, you're playing a character, you're in front of a live audience, there's no net. So it prepares you in that sense to kind of be able to react quickly and to absorb things quickly. So I think that's a real advantage, you know, moving into acting and those sorts of things. But you know, I kind of equate wrestling to more being on a live play like Broadway or something like that, where you're trying to project bigger because there's, you know, fans in the front row and there's fans in the top row. So everybody kind of has to be able to figure out what you're doing. So you're kind of project bigger. And in acting, to me, it was kind of like you're talking and you're kind of letting people see the conversation. You know, it's more intimate. That's kind of how I kind of viewed the differences in that, just trying to figure that part of it out.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously you recommended Jon Moxley. From what I've seen, which hasn't been much yet so far of the movie because it's not been released, it looks like he really took to it. Is there any other wrestlers that you would look at right now and go, man, they've got a future in acting?
Yeah, I mean, I would think of a guy like Bray Wyatt off the top of my head. You know, with the stuff that he comes up with is just, to me, just unbelievable. I think he's an incredible talent. You know, off the top of my head, I would say him for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously you're still kind of involved in the wrestling industry right now because you're on WWE Backstage as an analyst, which it's annoying for me because I don't get to see much of it because it doesn't broadcast in the UK. But from what I've seen, it's been amazing. And, you know, I always catch a little snippet here or there on Twitter, which is a wonderful thing right now. One of my favourite things that happened was this week on it, when you guys were all given, you know, your little bit of analysis. And then one of my favourite storylines in WWE right now, the SmackDown hacker, turns up.
Yeah.
And just, you know, that's the kind of thing that wouldn't happen unless this current situation is happening where you're all on video chat. Is that something that, you know, you like seeing more of, people taking advantage of social media and stuff? And is that something that you like on WWE Backstage, is getting to be a part of that?
Yeah, of course. And I mean, it's what I like about that particular story is that is the intrigue. You know, I think we even saw it even like weeks previous when the Twitter account was kind of taken over and kind of had people buzzing about it then, and then it turned into this what we see on television. I just like the mystery of it, the unknown of it, and I think that it's got a lot of people talking and guessing and trying to figure out who it is and these sorts of things. So anytime you can do that, I think it's good.
Definitely, yeah. And that's obviously, you talk a lot about WWE on Backstage, so I know that you still at least watch some of that product.
Of course,
One person that's caught my eye is someone who I've seen little shades of Christian in them. It's Chelsea Green. She uses a certain move, the unprettier, but called the I'm prettier. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's great. It's a good little spin on the name, and I think she's great. And I think she's really talented, and obviously she's a friend. So it's cool to be able to see her using the move.
Definitely. And, you know, aside from your in-ring career, one of my favourite things involving Christian was the Brood theme tune. I believe, you know, it was probably for me the greatest theme tune in wrestling. That's a hill I'll normally die on if that comes up in conversation. For you, who's got the best wrestling theme tune right now?
Right now?
Yeah. Go for a current one.
I got to say that I have only seen it once, but that Karrion Kross had a pretty bad entrance the other night on NXT. That looked pretty cool to me. Aleister Black has a pretty cool entrance, I think. I think off the top of my head, those would probably be the two.
That's two people that there's little shades of the Brood in those entrances as well.
Yeah.
They're kind of similar in a little way. So I mentioned there, WWE, obviously you pay attention to a lot of that kind of stuff. Do you watch any AEW or any Impact Wrestling or anything else outside the realm of WWE?
Yeah, of course. I'm a wrestling fan, so I try to take in as much as I can. I even catch a little bit of Ring of Honor whenever I can. So, I try to, and I have friends in all of those companies, so I definitely try to keep up and see what's going on and check out what my friends are doing.
In that case, who's catching your eye outside of WWE right now?
True, man. I like I like Orange Cassidy. I like the guy that I don't know, everybody doesn't find him entertaining. I also like what's his name? Stump me here. Darby Allin. I like vibe. He's very Jeff Hardy-ish, which I kind of like.
Most definitely. That's
you don't know what it is, but there's something interesting about them.
Two very intriguing characters and very different characters there as well. The reason I ask about whether you watch stuff outside of WWE is the next question I wanted to ask. Of the people that were sadly recently released, who do you believe will be a big star outside of WWE?
Well, I think that everybody that was released, obviously it's unfortunate with the situation that we're in that these things happen, and everybody in the world has been affected in some way by this. Everybody that was released is talented in their own way and was where they were for a reason. Off the top of my head, Zack Ryder is a good friend of mine, and I think that he's a very forward-thinking guy. Obviously, when you saw years ago with the YouTube show that he did, and he's always kind of been ahead of the curve in that respect. So I think that he's going to be fine, and I think that actually he'll flourish. With this challenge in front of him. Off the top of my head, I think that he would probably be, in my opinion, the guy. He's such a passionate guy about wrestling. He loves it. He's a diehard. He's a fan at heart. Like he loves it, and he's never going to give up on his dream of that. And I think that he's going to flourish. I really do think he's going to do some great things.
Yeah, he's one guy that I think was always way ahead of the curve, and I think maybe that was his downfall a little bit. But it's interesting that he was the name you mentioned, because my next question was about Edge. So Edge returned at WrestleMania. You guys have got a long history. The recent podcast was just the tip of the iceberg on your big career together. What were your thoughts on Edge returning, or what was your thought when he told you he was going to return?
Yeah, I was surprised when he told me that that he was going to see a doctor and try to get see if there may even be a possibility of being cleared. And when he told me, the doctor, he called me like basically on his drive home from the doctor, and he's like, yeah, they said I can do this. And I was like, wow, he had a second surgery on his neck, and obviously the surgery's advanced a lot since he originally had it done years ago. And he's got kids, so he's not going to put himself in any danger of he put his kids before anything else. So obviously, if he was comfortable with it and his family's comfortable with it, then that's all I needed to hear to be okay with it. But it's exciting. Like, it's unheard of for somebody to come back after being retired for 9 years. And, I know with his first WrestleMania match, he had visions of it being in a different setting than it was. But at the end of the day, I think it's good for people to have entertainment, much like with Cagefighter, what we're doing here with Fite TV, being able to stream it. It's kind of unheard of for this to happen. But the world needs entertainment. They really do. They need a good distraction at this point in time. And whether, I've said this before, whether Edge came out in front of 70,000+ fans or walked out at the Performance Center for WrestleMania, the fact that he walked down that ramp with his music, to me, is one of the greatest moments in WrestleMania history.
Yeah, definitely. And you said they're getting to provide entertainment for people at this time is, I think, priceless for a start. Obviously, movie cinemas are kind of closed just now. We've got Cagefighter coming out in a different setting than that normally would as well. That seems to be, you've got that going on. You've got WWE backstage. Obviously, Edge came back. No one's ever fully retired right now. Is that ever put a little thought in your head, or is it done?
No, I'm done.
Yeah. The kind of thing that I think I always need to ask that, even if I know what the answer's going to be. It's always nice to get that little bit of clarification, just in case it happens in the future. Yeah. We can bring this footage back.
Even if I was to tell you, but it's not. Trust me.
Definitely. And I mentioned it there, obviously a lot still going on. The one thing that did end was the podcasting with Edge. Will we see that return in the future?
Well, you never say never to anything, but obviously with Beth going back on the road doing commentary, and then which was really kind of the reason why we had to stop it. It was way before he was even considering getting cleared to go back. It was just hard for him to kind of, as hard as it sounds, doing a once a week podcast. It is, it takes a lot of work to get the content and put it out there. So it was just one of those things where he felt that he needed to kind of be more present. So you never know what will happen down the line in the future, but I have a couple of things that I'm working on in that respect. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. And that's, I put out a little teaser to say that I was interviewing you today, and I invited people to ask some questions. One thing that came up that wasn't the thing that I expected to come up, as much as I was a fan of it, was people were a big fan of your run in TNA. How do you look back on your time in TNA?
I had a great time in TNA. I really enjoyed my few years that I had there. They gave me a great opportunity, and that's what I was looking for. When I stepped away from WWE, it was to basically to bet on myself that I could go further and I could do more than what I was doing. And obviously the schedule was very good for me. I could drive to Orlando every week, so I didn't have to get on a plane, so that was nice. And but like more than anything, they gave me an opportunity to work at the top of the card and give myself the confidence that I could do that.
Definitely. And that's before we get back to the movie for a couple of questions, I've got one last thing that I need to ask in terms of your previous in-ring career. For me, when you mention Christian, of course you think of the tag team championships, you think of your solo career after that. But the one thing that always stands out for me is the phrase Captain Charisma. Where did that come from?
Yeah, it was just, I was trying to think of a ridiculous name when I was off with an injury for a few months. And, who isn't a fan of Shawn Michaels? And, he, called himself the Heartbreak Kid, and he just had this kind of catchy, little nickname. So I was like, what can I give myself that could be kind of an annoying, name that I would think is cool, but people generally don't think is cool. So I came up with that and I threw it out, and a couple people were like, that's terrible. You shouldn't use it. As soon as I heard that, I'm like, yeah, I'm using it. So.
Time to prove people wrong. Well, that's the one thing, back to the Cagefighter movie, the one thing that really intrigues me about it is I feel like it plays on a thing that for years and years people have always said, you know, could wrestlers hang in an MMA setting and a cage fighting setting? What do you think is the most exciting thing about that film? Without giving away too much, you know, the plot, what's the thing that excited you most about that concept?
Well, I think it's the story is very relevant to what we've seen here in the last few years, right? With wrestlers crossing over into MMA, with Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar doing it, with CM Punk doing it, with Jake Hager doing it recently, and we see it on the other side too. We see MMA, stars coming over to wrestling, and I've always said that MMA and wrestling to me are the same tree with different branches. At the end of the day, it's entertainment. So for me, what I liked about it was that without giving away too much, the wrestler is not the kind of butt of the joke or being made to look like a fool, and I appreciated that. As a wrestler, you're always protective of what you do, and you care about what you do. So to me, the fact that the wrestler, was taken seriously is pretty appealing for me.
Yeah, and we mentioned it earlier, obviously it's a slightly different setting for the way the movie's getting released because it's going on Fite TV, but it has got a nice set, premiere and stuff. It's very well structured in the way you've done it. The one thing that I want to ask, what would you see as successes being for the Cagefighter? Have you got a vision in mind for what you see as being that was successful at the end of it?
What do you mean by that?
Like, in terms of how it's received, have you got a target in mind for it? Yeah.
I just think that as long as people are entertained by it, at the end of the day, like I said, the world needs entertainment right now. And I think it's, Fite TV is a perfect vehicle for this because, there's not a lot of live events going on right now. So this can kind of give MMA fans and wrestling fans a little bit of a fix and a little bit of an escape. And I think it holds true. And obviously when you have other names like Chuck Liddell and Luke Rockhold attached to it as well, who are, Chuck's a legend and Luke is a former world champion in UFC and in Strikeforce. So, I mean, to me, those guys wouldn't want to be a part of it either if they didn't believe in, the way that it was done and portrayed.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the one thing where it seems like the perfect mix. Jon Moxley's definitely going to hook in wrestling fans. You're definitely going to hook in wrestling fans. And then you've got Chuck Liddell as well that's going to bring everyone in. And Fite TV is a great platform to have it as well. I've got two last questions. That if I don't upset you deeply with the next one, hopefully I can get the last one in. The question I need to ask that everyone every single year is always asking, why isn't Christian in the Hall of Fame? Can you answer that?
Yeah, I don't know. If I had a dime for every time somebody asked me that, then I'd be pretty well off. I mean, it's not up to me. I mean, I appreciate the fact that people want me in there that badly. I don't think about it. It really bothered me. And for me, it's like it's not going away this year. This isn't going to be last year, but it's going to be there next year, the year after, and the year after that. So it's not something I lose sleep over or even think about. But I appreciate that people want to see me in there. That's nice.
It's always a nice sentiment because it means that you're in everyone else's Hall of Fame that's in their mind. So at least you're staying in everyone's minds. I've got one final question.
Sure.
And it's actually not so much a question as a request. I always say it with these interviews, I feel like if I'm not looking back at me as a fan, as a kid, watching the people that I'm interviewing, then it's a complete waste because you always need to have that little bit of nostalgia. My one request is, can we end on a 5-second pose?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Excellent.
You ready?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much. Christian, Jay, whatever anyone wants to call you, I'm pretty sure you're going to be calling you a success, hopefully a future Hall of Famer, but even more immediately, hopefully they're looking at the success of the Cagefighter film, and man, I know it's going to be a success anyway for those names that you've got in it and the passion you've got, but thank you so much for chatting with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Stay safe over there.
Excellent, man. Thank you. You too. Cheers. Bye.